Hey everybody, I'm Ross Treelevin, and this is another Sprague Spotlight interview. Today I'm with Marysville Branch Manager TJ Nicholas. TJ, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. As Ross said, I'm TJ Nicholas, Marysville branch manager as of January 1st this year. Um, I've been with Sprague for 20 years here, coming up on February 27th, and started out as a technician, moved up to an operations manager, and was in that role for about 3 years, I believe, almost four. And just like I said, just became recently the branch manager here in Marysville.
So 20 years ago, Sprague was probably a little different. Talk me through like first day and like how things worked there over the first few weeks.
Oh my gosh, yes, it was quite different than it is today. When you are first day in the office, you come in, you introduction, sign a few papers, and then you're immediately put into a truck. When you get into that truck, it's okay. You're going to go meet this person in the field, ride along with them for the day, and it was completely different. There wasn't any of the training program that you have now. It was a lot different scenarios. Um, you know, my second day on the job was the Nisqually earthquake. I happened to be in Bellevue. I was at a Circuit City at the time, and the tech that was training me and myself, we looked at the wall, and all the components started moving back and forth on the wall, and of course the ground started shaking, and we just kind of look at each other and slowly back out of the building and head back across the water over to Seattle. And not sure that was the smartest thing to do, but we didn't know what else to do. I mean, what are you going to do when you're faced with that? Neither one of us had been in the situation, so yeah, that was interesting.
That was not a small earthquake. I know some of our California friends would be like, "Yeah, it's just an earthquake," but
Right?
that wasn't a small one.
No, it was not. It was. I think it was a little eye opening for everybody in our area.
We also, you were in a Circuit City. That's a name I hadn't heard in a long time.
Yep, I was surprised I remember that.
That is incredible. There's a lot going on 20 years ago.
There was.
One of the things I remember too 20 years ago is we didn't have like PDAs. We wrote everything down.
Yep, I think it was three or four carbon copies, and you had to press hard on it to make sure the client got their report legibly. And the CSRs had quite well, BACs, they were CSR back then, had quite the job of separating all that paperwork and then filing it in two 6-foot cabinets that stood about 5 feet tall, and every account had their own file. And yeah, everything was quite a bit different then.
Oh man, I remember we'd have to put people on hold and go look at those files and pull out and to read the notes. But one of the things I remember so clearly was how clear your penmanship was, and that was not something that we could teach. That was just something you had. It made it so much easier to read when somebody called and we had to read notes. So
So it must have been my technical drawing carrying over from high school.
yeah, maybe so, maybe so. So what were you doing right before you joined Sprague 20 years ago?
I was actually doing electrical work, but the company I worked for was based out of Frederick, Maryland, and but I lived in Washington. We flew to every job site that we needed to work in. So we worked in areas like Minneapolis, New York, Tennessee. Most of the work was done back east. So it was a great paying job, but my kids were getting to the age they were there, starting getting involved with the school sports and things going on in their school. So I decided to look for something local. And while I was traveling, my wife was able to stay home, and our goal was to get a house. And once we did that, we would start looking for local work. So
That's really cool. That's really
yeah,
cool. And then you found out. So who was your hiring manager then?
uh,
That's right, Tom Lip.
yeah.
I
Uh,
forgot Tom was there. And then who was your ops manager then?
oh my gosh, I believe it was Mark Mead. I could be wrong, but that was 20 years ago.
No, I think it was Mark Mead. I
Okay.
think Mark was well. Who were you've had several different roles in the organization, obviously, over the last 20 years.
Yep.
Who are some of the people who had a big influence on your career?
Well, definitely Chad Rogers. He, obviously in QA now, but Chad was a technician back then. I think he had started with Sprague 9 months prior to my start, and but he had previous pest control experience. And when I came in, he had actually, if I'm not mistaken, a basketball injury, rolled his ankle, and I got to be his goat. So um, I was, it was perfect training opportunity for me. He just pointed and I did it. And, Chad was a phenomenal, instructor at the time, and or still is, I'm sure. but it was Chad and I built a pretty good bond during that time, and it even continues to this day. Pre-COVID, we would try to meet at least once a year. He moved south, and I'm still up here. He lived in the area that I live in, for a long time, and then moved down south. But even after that, we would still try to meet up for lunch.
I remember asking him to take supplies just out that direction so that I
Yep.
didn't have to. So yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking
Yep.
about.
Yeah, he actually took me fishing for the first time out here on the Skycomish River, and I got it was probably about a 30-inch salmon out of the river, and it was the first time I ever been river fishing. And we got up 5 o'clock in the morning one day before work and went out there, and yeah, that was pretty exciting. So
That's so awesome.
yeah.
Did you ever have an opportunity to return the favor where maybe you were injured and you helped somebody else helped you out along the way?
Well, yes. When I broke my leg, I believe it was 2005, and it was 4 years after I started. I did not. I wasn't in the field because I was on crutches, and it was going to be a little longer than just going into a boot or whatever. So I got to play the role of what now is the VAC, and in Seattle. So I got to learn the ins and outs of pulling those papers apart, putting it in the file. At that time we didn't have the operations center, so we were receiving phone calls, dispatching, and I think that was I enjoyed that because it gave me that side, the perspective of what they do in the office, rather than just seeing it from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think I was in sales at the time when that happened, and so I got to see you every day in the office. And
Yep.
you were in there for months, if I remember.
I think it was about 2 months. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that was an incredible time. I know you that that was that you were in a little bit of pain too.
Yep. Yep.
But then I think over the years, I think you became quite the trainer for us. I think that a lot of people ended up having their first, second, third, fourth weeks or days with you in the field.
Yep. Yeah, I did quite a bit of training. I unfortunately I probably wouldn't be able to name them all, but I know there are still a few techs with us that are through the years. Jared Hoffer, I think he's just hit his 11th year, and he actually took over my area. Once I was done training him, and then I moved a little further north, closer to home. So, yeah, there's been quite a few techs.
Well, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe yourself outside of work?
I think I would consider myself, or describe myself as, fun. I do like to have fun. Am, I would consider myself outgoing. I like to try to meet people. I mean, you get that shield when you're in a new situation, but I try to break that barrier down for myself and just go out and introduce myself. And, but I think I'm quiet, approachable, so I don't know. I guess those are a few words I could describe myself.
No, that's good. What are some of the things that keep your time busy when you're not working, when you actually have time outside of work?
Well, these days, so when I started with Sprague, my kids were 7 and 9. So these days, my grandchildren are keeping me busy. So
That's awesome.
I have a 3-year-old grandchild and a 3-year-old granddaughter and an 8-year-old grandson, and they live in Bellingham, so we try to see them as often as possible. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Well, the new Marysville office that was only opened maybe a year ago, the actual physical building, just over a year ago. You're now the second occupant of the desk there. What's it like to work in that office?
It's pretty great. I'm looking forward to the day. Unfortunately, we were in the office for about 2 months, and then we shut down to, only allowing 1 or 2 people, depending on what phase we were in the office. So I'm sure the entire office is looking back to the day that we can hold an entire office meeting in our office and see each other's faces face to face, and just feel like home again. It's a little lonely at the office, even though when there's 2 of us working in there, it just doesn't feel like what Sprague has been all the years. Obviously I understand that it is what it is with the times right now, but I think definitely looking forward to that, having everybody back in the office and having them enjoy it as well.
I can't wait. I've had one actual meeting in your office. There were 3 of us in that giant training center, spread out as far away from each other as we could be. going through some sales goals. I mean, that's all I've been able to do in person with your team this year. It's killing me to not be out there with y'all. It's one of those things where I can't wait till this all clears.
Yep.
Yeah. TJ, thank you for joining me today. This has been great to learn a little bit about your story with us and to see who's impacted your career. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate it. It's been, been a great 20 years, and I'm looking forward to, as long as I can go.
Happy 20th anniversary.
Thank you.